Since we last have spoke, the Browns have re-signed a player. They have also added a player on defense, and the quarterback talks just continue and even hit the level of crazy. Browns 3D starts now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, brought to you by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate everybody for all the support here to the site this week, whether it certainly is the written content or through the streaming channel, OBR on YouTube, OBR on Twitch. You guys really been supportive here and makes it a lot easier for us to just pour out the content, knowing how well it's been received. So obviously big kudos and thanks to everybody for all you've been doing for us the last couple of days. Big again, thanks. Since we last left you yesterday, and then of course you had the react, you had your garage beers. Tonight you'll have Fred and Barry after me. So certainly another night here of great content coming for you guys. Signing after I went off the air yesterday, re-signing of linebacker Devin Bush. We'll get to that. Today, signing of Maliek Collins, defensive tackle. We'll get to that. The quarterback, and I guess, this is just kind of where it's at, and we'll continue with this. From it's being reported and confirmed now that Russell Wilson will be coming to Cleveland on Thursday for a meeting before he heads off to meet with the New York Giants on Friday. I'm assuming this is a real meeting with the New York Giants this year, as opposed to when he just took a flight to New York and had it floated out that he was meeting with the New York Giants last year. Whatever. Things get weird, right? First off, I don't know if this is, it appears the Falcons kind of threw out, their last gasp Hail Mary. Basically, hey, well, we understand that we have $10 million more that we're, look, if it's difficult to pay Kirk Cousins $27.5 million to not play for your team, it's even more difficult to pay Kirk Cousins $37.5 million to play for your team. Now, look, the one thing none of us truly know, though, and I think everybody just thinks it's assumed that when Kirk Cousins gets out of Atlanta, he is just an absolute slam dunk to come to the Browns. I think it is. I think everybody thinks it is. What if it wasn't? That is something to ponder, obviously. On the surface, bringing Russell Wilson in is not a terrible idea. You're talking about a legendary quarterback, a Hall of Famer. Certainly the play has dropped over the last few years, but I think, you saw some glimpses last year in Pittsburgh. I think the biggest problem is I think you see a guy in Russell Wilson who you have serious doubts of whether or not he can hold up physically for a 17-game regular season, let alone if you're a team that wants to go to 18 games, 19 games, 20 games. If it was Kirk Cousins, you're not paying any money whatsoever. You're probably getting from the league minimum. Much the way Russ got paid last year. I'm assuming Russ is going to want legitimate money this year. What is legitimate money for a 36-year-old quarterback who has, certainly seen, the bloom come off his rose over the last 3 seasons, 2 in Denver, and then, of course, last year in Pittsburgh. Professional? Yes. Is he going to go out there and, do what's asked of him? I mean, there's superlatives, you can put to this, and you can understand that, how this isn't a terrible idea. I think just for a lot of us and anybody that would kind of be against this, just, you think we're talking about a guy that's, close to Dunzo. But same thing can be said of Kirk Cousins as well. I mean, we are talking about 36, 37-year-old quarterbacks here right now. It gets back to what we've been saying from jump. There was never going to be an option that was really going to be all that appealing for the Cleveland Browns this year. It all depends. I mean, look, they have pick 2. If you think the appeal is there with Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, you're certainly entitled to your opinion. I've stated my opinion a million times as to what I think, I think would be good at 2. I just don't think it's going to happen. And the more and more we go down this road, it seems that, Cam Ward is going 1, and it seems the tide is shifted now where it's probably a larger percentage of the Tennessee Titans will be taking Cam Ward at number 1 overall, as opposed to the New York Giants, which is the way it may have been trending at the combine. It's, it kind of reminds me of, the Seinfeld gif with George Costanza, right? You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. But this was never going to be the prettiest rebuild for the Browns quarterback room. Look, again, just, everything fell into their laps, and they got lucky like everybody said they needed to do. The draft, unfortunately, is not giving enough at the quarterback position. Certainly, there is not enough available, whether it would even be via trade, via free agency, for the quarterback position. So Russ will come in Thursday, quickly scatter out of town and go to New York. Do I think that maybe the Browns, in with Atlanta putting this out there, Charles Robinson, is basically them saying, hey, come trade for Kirk or we'll just keep him, which I don't think anybody believes. So you kind of wonder if, that, it's not even a bold move. It's a desperation move on the part of the Atlanta Falcons. Do you think the Russell Wilson coming in is maybe the Browns' way of, calling BS on the Falcons' BS? I mean, again, who knows? It seems a lot of, angling and maneuvering for guys that just don't really have a big market. We're talking again about a 36-year-old and a 37-year-old quarterback. And look, Russ has done a lot of great things in this league in his time. There's no question about it. I'm not taking that away from him. And we're now going to have a second former Pittsburgh Steeler in the Browns quarterback room. I mean, what's Duck Hodges doing? Let's bring him in as QB3 for God's sakes. Definitely just, gives an ill fate to it. I wish, the Russ that was part of certainly, the prime Seattle Seahawks teams, if you were still getting that guy, and that guy would not be available, but he's just not that guy anymore. The athleticism really isn't there. The arm strength is no longer there. This one, I just, I kind of had a feeling there was going to be the point where the Russ Wilson was going to, be connected here just because, big name quarterback opening. It makes a lot of sense to connect them. But, again, I just sitting here kind of shaking my head a little bit about it. So he comes in Thursday. This Browns quarterback carousel continues. And, keep in mind, there's still probably going to be another one coming some way, from 4. I'm talking about a 4th quarterback, obviously. We all believe the Browns have every intention on drafting a quarterback. But, 4 minimum. So is that going to be another, somewhat veteran of this league acquired somehow, some way, an undrafted free agent quarterback? Who knows? I can tell you this, that if we're 3 days into it, I think I've already had too much. I got to be honest, because the covering and speaking on just mediocre quarterback play at this point is just like, whew, it's really becoming a lot. And I think we all truly understand kind of where we're at. And, it's just going to be, up to who's going to agree to come here. And look, I see a lot of people talking about these veteran quarterbacks, and I believe it was Mary Kay who put it out. And, well, Kirk's got to be careful where he goes. He doesn't want to, get panics to get. You're 37 years old, man. And the other thing is, I don't believe there's many teams in the NFL that believe you've got 17 starts in you. So you take the job that you can get and you go with it from there. And again, look, there's no slam dunk that Kirk Cousins is ready to just walk into Cleveland and say, okay, I'm your guy here for 2025. I think everybody assumes it. Everybody presumes it. I am part of that crowd as well. Guilty as charged. But if you said you were bringing in a veteran quarterback, you certainly could do worse than Russ Wilson. I just think that is, something that this fan base in no way whatsoever is ready to tolerate. And then the other thing is you actually kind of got to kick some money to Russ Wilson. He ain't going to play on league minimum for a second year in a row. So kind of where we're at here. I said other couple moves were made since we last spoke. We're certainly going to get to those. Browns 3D rolls on. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. Really enjoying the partnership we have with Stay Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights. Great family, great crew, great company. If you're local to the Cleveland area, they are your one-stop shop for all things lawn equipment. Listen, you want to spend your Sundays watching the Browns and not cutting your grass. Let the guys at State help you get your weekend back. They specialize in both residential and commercial equipment for Toro, the brand professionals have counted on for more than 100 years. Whether you are looking for a new, dependable time cutter zero turn, or genuine Toro replacement parts, or even expert service from experienced technicians who keep your mower in peak condition, State has got your back. They are veteran-owned. The Kane family are lifetime Clevelanders, lifetime Browns fans, and huge supporters of us here at the OBR. Again, if you are local to Cleveland, Stay Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights is your hometown team for all your lawn equipment needs. All their info is at statesharp.com. That is STATESHARP.com. Now, last night the news dropped. The Browns have re-signed linebacker Devin Bush. First thought, I think, for everybody was, Devin Bush coming back. Is this any indication of anything related to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah? I don't think we're having any more clarity as far as the situation with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah today than we were yesterday. We have been, I think it was November. I want to say November 24th is when he was put on IR. And the only reason that date sticks out is because it's my daughter's birthday. But we are in no position of any more clarity on the JOK situation. Devin Bush comes back 1 year, I believe it's about $3.5 million. Actually had the pleasure of messaging Devin Bush Sr. last evening, and apparently Devin Bush Sr. did not know that Junior had resigned with the Cleveland Browns until I had told him. So it's certainly nice to break news to a father about his son's employment here with the Cleveland Browns. Hey, look, we're dads. We're old. We're always on top of everything. But look, Cleveland Browns as a whole last year were pretty piss poor. I think we're all in agreement on that. One of the few bright spots, in my opinion, last year for the Cleveland Browns was Devin Bush. PFF graded wise was extremely good. His tackle rate percentage was very, very good. Ended up certainly probably playing more than originally anticipated due to JOK's injury, 8 tackles for loss. Devin Bush was one of the bright spots on this Cleveland Browns defense last year. But you look at the linebacker room right now, and certainly you consider, until we know JOK is not part of it, we consider that he is part of it. So you're looking right now at JOK. You're looking obviously at Hicks. You are certainly looking at Devin Bush. You are looking at Mahmoud Diabate, and you're looking at Buki Watson. You're not going to keep more than 5. So that could be your Browns linebacker room right there. Do you keep Jordan Hicks? I think they have every intention of keeping Jordan Hicks. Yeah, he was dinged up a little bit last year at times, but certainly played well when he was good. I think Diabate's a player, and I think that Diabate brings you a pretty significant presence on special teams. The Browns did lose a core special teamer today. Mike Ford, who originally came from Atlanta to the Browns, leaves now from the Browns to go back to Atlanta. The Browns are 5 deep at corner, so I can kind of understand it from Ford's standpoint. It's kind of getting hard, and the Browns will draft a corner this year because that's just what they do. So it's getting really hard to find a spot for Mike Ford, to basically sign a contract and stick in Cleveland as a special teamer when he could be corner 6, corner 7, whatever. Does this maybe put the Browns out of drafting a linebacker? I would probably say there's a good chance that does. We talk about it all the time. Linebackers aren't necessarily that important to the Cleveland Browns, as they want to get to nickel and dime as fast as they can. And ideally, that would be a situation where JOK is on the field. Certainly I think that room could certainly be finished. Certainly a exception could be made if, if and when we learn more or get more clarity on the whole situation with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And look, I'm not asking anybody to push anything here, and the Browns may not have a true designation one way or the other of what exactly the health issues are with JOK. But it obviously it's very hard to give you guys accurate information, and certainly hard to give you guys accurate analysis when we have an unknown that we can't speak concretely on one way, certainly, or the other. So, tough to deal with that as well. Right around 4 o'clock, beginning of the new league year today, it did drop. The Browns have signed Maliek Collins, 2016 third round pick, 2024 with the San Francisco 49ers. If you guys remember, 2023, because we saw him twice with the Houston Texans, had 5 sacks in 23 with Houston, had 5 sacks last year with the San Francisco 49ers. And I kind of talked about this yesterday, because I think your early down defensive tackles right now would probably be Shelby Harris, and certainly would be Jawan Briggs. Mike Hall, when, if health permitting, is probably the guy you're going to try to work out on the field in nickel and dime situations. I think that is also where Maliek Collins is going to be a guy that plays more in nickel and dime situations. You also have Alex Wright, who certainly can kick inside in those situations. You certainly have Myles Garrett, who can kick inside in those situations. A lot of things the Browns could do with that type of stuff. As far as what would be left for the defensive tackle room, my belief would be you're going to go and draft one, yes, but maybe you're going to go look, certainly run stuffer tendency type of guy. That bigger guy, Collins, is 6'2" and change, 310. So again, good sized boy, not necessarily a dominant run defender. And you certainly don't want to get in a position where you have these guys, and giving them and asking them to do or perform roles that they are not overly comfortable with. But not a bad couple of moves on the defensive side of the ball for the Browns to this point. So what you have to this point, obviously you have Pickett, you have Cornelius Lucas, you have Bush, of course, you have Joe Tryon, of course. You certainly have, the move here now for Collins. If there's anything that's really glaring out to me right now at this point for the Cleveland Browns, it's skill position. Waiting certainly to hear on what's going to go on in the running back room. Where Nick Chubb, and is Nick gonna move on? Is Nick not gonna move on? There doesn't seem to be a lot of activity on that market. And that was kind of confirmed today. If you heard Ben Albright on Browns Daily with Nathan and Bo, he kind of told you there's not much movement on that market for Nick Chubb. And it's, certainly tough to hear for a guy that has been so great for so long. And unfortunately, maybe, the injuries are catching up to him at this point in time. So certainly one we're waiting to see. The wide receiver market, there's been Browns with zero activity to this point. The tight end market, Browns with zero activity to this point. Look, these are all questions that can be answered in the draft. And, I'm fine doing that. But, Browns need touchdown scores. There's just no way around it. I like what they've done for the defense at to this point. Certainly looking at the safety position, what is going to go on there next for the Browns. No movement there. Certainly still waiting to hear, the way it's going to work on the tender for DeAnthony Bell. But there are still some key positional growth for the Cleveland Browns that, I'd like to see, basically double dipped, veteran, rookie, and just doesn't seem to be much traction on that. Look, I understand it is a bad wide receiver market. I understand the running back market is just not going to see much money just due to an amazing draft class that's going to be out there. But the Browns still some holes to fill, have yet to turn any more, salaries into, any more contracts into more salary cap space. That certainly can happen at any time. For the way I figured it, if the Browns were almost at 89, you figure the only one that they did turn over was Deshaun Watson's to this point, which I believe was almost 36. So there's another $53 million the Browns could make available. I'm not saying they would. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm not saying they should. But, I still believe there's a lot of activity the Browns maybe need to get into. And look, if you sign a guy and it's dirt cheap money and the guy comes in and he gets beat out by a rookie, that's all the more better. But, I really think the Cleveland Browns right at this point in time need to find a couple more answers here. Certainly at safety, I'd love to see some sort of veteran wide receiver in here. The only tight end I want back from last year is David Njoku. So obviously I want a veteran. Obviously I would like a rookie as well. So kind of where we're at here, still, obviously much more time to go for the Cleveland Browns to continue pursuing assets. Okay. We actually have an update. The Anthony Bell is apparently now is not tendered. D'Anthony Bell is going to visit with the Seattle Seahawks this week. So for the Browns, with the safety room right now, that pretty much consists of two guys. D'Anthony Bell is taking visits going to Seattle. So with Ronnie Hickman and just maybe Grant Delpit, this is a room the Browns need a lot of work in. A guy like Justin Simmons would be great, but you got to think a guy like Justin Simmons at this point in his career, 31 going on 32, is, kind of contender shopping for what may be or where maybe he would like to continue, playing his ball. So the position, obviously, that I just spoke about that kind of is a weakness for this team certainly could be in the scenario of actually getting even weaker. And to be fair, and I know a lot of people have brought this up, and to be fair, look, they've not handled the safety market well. Certainly John Johnson III, certainly Juan Thornhill. These are things that have gone well for this team. But I don't think the best, way to avoid making mistake is just not to bring anybody in whatsoever. The safety class and the way it works in the draft is always difficult. Where safeties are valued is coming in this league as young players. Very, very, strange market certainly to, follow in regards to that. So, certainly been a strange couple of days. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not shocked by the Browns' lack of activity to this point. I think I would, have liked to heard that they're just in on a little bit more. To this point, and I guess everything, as we always know, everything has to deal with, I get it, is the quarterback, which certainly seems to be, if you want to use the word uneventful, I guess uneventful is more than okay for right now. I do want to get to this though. Now, obviously I've been talking a ton about if and when Cam Ward goes number 1 overall and the Browns at number 2 and taking Abdul Carter. First off, it seems really difficult to have to sell people on drafting the best overall player in this class at number 2. It does seem kind of odd to have to do that. Abdul Carter is bigger than Von Miller when Von Miller entered the league. Testing numbers from Penn State, and anybody wants to give me a hard time about these testing numbers from Penn State, I'm going to tell you why I believe these numbers are truthful from Penn State. Penn State is one of the few teams that releases pro day numbers. So I have no doubt the validity that when Penn State tells me Abdul Carter can run a laser timed 4.48, that I am to believe them. So for those of you who think, drafting Abdul Carter is such a terrible idea, you need to understand that Abdul Carter is bigger and more athletic than Von Miller when he came into the league. So if that's an issue for you guys, I don't get it. For those people, oh, well, he's only played there 1 year. He was a linebacker before. Okay. So did Micah Parsons. Believe it or not, Micah Parsons pretty much was a linebacker his entire time at Penn State. How has that worked out in his transition to the NFL? If you want Shedeur Sanders, that's fine. But we are not going to speak ill of or talk down of the future and the potential and what the guy is right now in Abdul Carter. He is a rocked up, solid looking athlete that can run like a deer. So yeah, I'm all in on that. So we should have, an interesting one tomorrow with Russ Wilson coming to Cleveland to meet with the Browns. As far as the rest of the division to this point, DeAndre Hopkins going to Baltimore, that kind of seemed pretty obvious, right? I mean, every year we do this. Who's this weird veteran that we can put down there and, see if he's still the guy he is? I mean, he was with Patrick Mahomes last year. I think they keep doing these things in Baltimore and they just don't make any sense to me. If you want to get Lamar Jackson weapons, get him weapons. Lamar Jackson doesn't need any old wide receivers still trying to hang on. Get him more good ones. Get him more young ones. I mean, he's Lamar stinking Jackson, for God's sakes. Cincinnati seems to be, peddling around and picking up knickknacks, while they still need to address the big things on their roster. T. Higgins, of course. Jamar Chase, of course. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, I guess, and it came out today that, Aaron Rodgers would maybe be interested in Pittsburgh, but he doesn't think he's going to have an answer for a while. Typical Aaron Rodgers. Let's make everything about myself. And apparently, there was one put out there, and I don't think I believe this, is that Pittsburgh maybe thought that Aaron Rodgers was going to come cheap. I don't think anybody believes Aaron Rodgers is going to do anything on the terms of the team looking to acquire him. Everything certainly is going to be done on the terms of Aaron Rodgers. So the veteran quarterback carousel for the Browns continues. To this point, it is just Kenny Pickett, of course. Then I don't know the validity, and I got to be honest with you. I don't believe the validity of, Russ and the Browns. I think this is Russ using the Browns. I honestly think this is the Browns using Russ. Russ, in my opinion, really would like to get to New York. Of course, that could be contingent. Aaron Rodgers seems to be playing two franchises right now. And if Aaron Rodgers wants either the New York Giants or the Pittsburgh Steelers, Aaron Rodgers needs to, number one, get over himself. And number two, let one of these franchises know what his intentions are and quickly. This is not a league where Aaron Rodgers can hold hostage anymore. Franchises are not going to be held hostage by a guy like Aaron Rodgers anymore. And I think Aaron Rodgers and what he is doing right now is probably holding up some of the other quarterback dominoes. Because, I mean, it is kind of interesting because, just say if it happened like this. Just say Atlanta keeps Cousins. The Browns, and don't hold me against it, guys, here. The Browns say, all right, we'll take Russ Wilson. And Aaron Rodgers says, New York Giants. Where does that leave the Pittsburgh Steelers? Where would that leave the Pittsburgh Steelers? I believe Skylar Thompson's the only quarterback on their roster right now. And you just traded and extended for DK Metcalf along with Pickens, Freiermuth. You brought in Kenneth Gainwell, which is always interesting because, I like Tyler Warren, the Pittsburgh Steelers running back, but bringing in Gainwell is pretty much the same type of guy. I guess they'll just draft a banger type of running back, somewhere in the draft as well. It's really not really just head scratching. But basically you have Rodgers, you have Cousins, you have Russ, and they're all kind of just intertwined. And until one of them makes a decision, we're certainly not going to know what the other one's decisions are. Atlanta can continue to play this game. Nobody believes them. Nobody is going to trade and pay Kirk Cousins that money. It was your mistake, Atlanta. You signed the deal. You gave him guaranteed money. You're the one that's going to eat it. Nobody is going to eat your vegetables for you, Atlanta. You screwed that one up. That one is on you. And if you were just going to draft a quarterback anyway, you should have never signed Kirk Cousins to begin with. So it certainly feels, and with these three, Cousins and Russ Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, this certainly feels like some bad mid-afternoon soap opera on television. But a lot of it is, kind of holding up the business for, a lot of teams at the quarterback position right now, currently in the NFL. Browns with one quarterback in the house to this point, Kenny Pickett, certainly trying to add more. Still work to be done at several positions. Safety is one of them, but more importantly for me, running back, wide receiver, tight end. This team desperately needs people who can score touchdowns, and they just don't seem to have any answer for that right now. I understand it can come from the draft, but as of right now, I'd at least like, can you get me some sort of toy we can maybe play with and be excited about as far as being Browns fans? Just something, I like the work they've done to this point. I do. But can I just kind of get like a little bit of shiny toy, something you can take out in the yard and play with a little bit. Come on, Andrew Berry. Help you folks out here. We would truly, truly appreciate it. You will have, obviously, Fred Greetham, Barry McBride after me. Guys, will rock it for you. That'll be starting at 7 right after this. We appreciate everybody for the support here at Brown's 3D, which is brought to you on the OBR by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. It's been a slow week. Certainly been a marathon. It has not been a sprint. We will keep you up to date on the latest on, of course, the website with the written content, of course, here on the streaming networks, OBR on YouTube, OBR on Twitch. This has been your daily delivery of all things dog pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.